our special guest today. We're in Treviso Bay. As you can tell, we're waiting on our third appearance here. Mike Hughes will be here in just a minute. But maybe while we're waiting for Mike, tell us a little bit about Treviso Bay. Tell us places like this.
I like how you said that.
It really is. It feels like that because you're in this, obviously a gated community, but how long have you been here? What's it like here? What's special about it?
Okay.
This is, put on your salesmanship.
Put on my sale, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm pitching Treviso Bay to everyone.
To the whole world.
Yeah, so I've been in Treviso Bay since 2015.
Okay.
All right, so believe
9 years this year.
9+ years, that's pretty
Okay.
amazing. That's amazing. So what drew me over here to Naples, I used to be on the East Coast of Florida, originally in New Jersey, but what drew me here was the lifestyle, the relaxing, it's just more laid back, and I think it's a better quality of life. That's what
you showed up in a golf cart, so that's pretty sweet.
My realtor golf cart.
Your realtor,
Downing Frye
yeah,
Realty.
that's right. Yeah, no personal business.
No, it's all tagged up. But that's fun. But yeah, as you said when you came in too, it's true. It is like Disney World, and people say that when they come in here, and I show it to friends and clients, buyers, new folks looking in the area. It's easy to talk about. I could rattle on for a while because you see that main pool area when you enter. You see the plush landscape in here.
Two clubhouses.
So yeah, so there's a main clubhouse which you passed when you were closer to where we are now here in the back end of Treviso by the golf course. That's the main clubhouse. That's the golf area as well. That's your fine dining area. Then when you enter the front gate, that's called Villa Rosar. Okay. That's where La Piscina is, the restaurant.
The restaurants there.
Yeah, there's a restaurant up there, but you have your fitness center, locker rooms, tennis pro shop, all up front there, all the amenities, as well as that restaurant and a resort style pool. So it is like, when people see it, they're like, this is like a resort. It is called Treviso Bay Resort and Spa. So that's,
there you go.
It falls into it.
Yeah, it's beautiful. They've got single family homes, condominiums. Mm-hmm. You mentioned coach homes. What is a coach home? So
yeah, to go on, you have a condo, you got verandas, and then you go to a coach home. So condos, I think self-explanatory, condos are condos. You get to a veranda, which is you're in between that and the coach home. Veranda has a 1-car detached garage, a little more square footage, and they also start with an extra room as opposed to most of the condos. They're just a 2-bedroom. Unless they're a corner unit, then they have 3 or 2+, however you want to call it. And then the coach home, when you're talking on a veranda, say just throw a number between 1355 and 1455 or so on the square footage. Then you go to a coach home and your square footage goes from first floor or second floor, because there's 4 units in the building. Okay. It's going to be 1883 on the first floor, and the second floor is 2110. So more square footage, you have 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, plus you have a 2-car attached garage.
So a lot of people that probably find a community like this, they're upgrading or downgrading over the years. Yeah. Which is neat. And that's probably one of the benefits of selling in a neighborhood like this. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. I think it's interesting you talk about, you've got condos and coach homes and villas, but legally, there's condos and single family. There isn't a third, right? These are all marketing terms.
Correct, yeah.
So it is important to know, and this is what we wanted to talk about today. It's important to know the difference because you've got disclosure rules in regards to that. So maybe we just jump right into that. Yeah. All right, so let's say I'm going to list a property in a master plan community. Mm-hmm. It might just be called Treviso Bay, right? How do you disclose fees? What is your process on doing that? Where do you start? Do you use the same forms over and over, or do you update them? How often do you update them? So we have
a master file now that we keep for Treviso. Treviso Bay has become our farm. Yeah, obviously I live here, and it's organically, naturally become the farm, and that's the way that was the plan. So we keep everything on file. We have a very tight, close relationship with the management company here, Icon, who's run under Troon. So we have everything on file. Now, obviously fees change every year.
Yeah.
And we're also, myself and Suzanne were very involved with the HOA. So the master with budget, I know what's going on.
You go to
with
the
budget. We
meetings
go to all the
and-
meetings. So we have the numbers, and then when we need them, we get them from the management company or the website you can download as well. That's a great tool to share with people as well.
Yeah, so there was an investing advice I always used, which was buy the block, which means that once you get good at a certain area, a certain neighborhood, a certain block, the simplest way to reinvest is to buy the one next door to that and the one in the same street or on the next street over. And so that's essentially what you and Suzanne have done is you've bought the block. You bought into the idea that this is a great community. You obviously love it. You live here.
I live here and I love it.
And you've bought in completely. There's no BS there. Well, maybe there is. I don't know. But it does make it simpler for you because it's very predictable as to what you can explain to them.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Hey, welcome.
I found out I needed a new GPS system.
So this is right off the cuff. I'm going to throw you on the spot.
Oh, you always do.
Always do. What was your initial impression? Have you been to this community before?
I remember when it was a cow pasture.
I do too.
Yeah.
I do too. What was your second impression?
Wow, have things changed. I mean, I had no idea how big. You know, from 41, you don't get a real perspective.
No, you don't.
On
You
how
just
big
see
this
the
community is.
entrance.
It's beautiful. I mean, really, the palm trees, everything about it. I believe way back when the Laley family might have owned this land. And it's amazing how much it's developed. I mean, absolutely beautiful. And I remember in the early days, all the chatter was, when's the clubhouse going in? And that one's obviously been a home run. The golf course, spectacular. This personifies Naples, there's no question.
Yeah, you're definitely a club inside of a club.
TPC golf course.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's another draw.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem like you have to be a golf person to be here.
You do not.
So what you mentioned something to me when I came here. You said, I just bring them to the clubhouse and they're pretty much sold, right? You know right away if this is going to be for them or not.
Yeah.
And they probably know as well. But if let's say the spouse is not a big golfer, what do you do then? Is there social memberships?
Absolutely, yeah. So there's the amenities here are, again, just Treviso Bay Resort and Spa and Country Club. The amenities are second to none here. It's Naples, like Mike said, and tennis pro shop, the fitness. They just redid it's a new community. Pretty new.
What is it? 20 years old, less?
Not even, And they just redid the fitness center, made all new equipment, all new gym. It's amazing. Yeah, right.
I can tell.
Thank you. But so there are 1,432 doors here.
1,432.
Yeah,
Okay.
826 of them are golf members.
Okay.
The rest are everyone is a social member.
So maybe 60, 70% are playing golf.
Yep.
The others aren't. That's not even what's interesting to them.
Pickleball, tennis. It's a very active social.
It seemed like there were a lot of walking trails.
Yeah.
The pools, you said, a lot of people go to the pools. They're like Disney World, you got resort. It's just interesting to me because like you said, Mike, I just drive by it. I've never been in here. And it's nice to think there are these little pockets inside of what is already an awesome Naples. You're what, 12 minutes to the beach.
Yeah.
You're 20 minutes to Marco. It's pretty cool. I don't know. It kind of checks all the boxes. Tell us about this house. This is not for sale.
This is not for sale.
Single family home.
Yeah.
We're on the golf course. There's a green behind us, right?
Behind us, yeah.
We're not going to say prices because prices fluctuate so frequently.
Absolutely.
We'll date ourselves pretty quickly. But obviously, if you want to offer, big bucks, just call Scott.
Yeah,
He'll take care of
I'd
you.
love to.
So the nice thing, let me give it from my perspective. So Scott, he likes the lifestyle. He can answer their questions. And then it comes to me on the title side and the legal side. And I have a different perspective. The reason I like working with you and knowing where you work is that it's very organized. You're organized in your head because you understand it. So there's no confusion over what the fees are. We're not going to have problems with, hey, it wasn't disclosed correctly. They didn't disclose it all. They can't find the bylaws. They don't know what happened in the meeting, 60 days ago. They didn't get the memo. They're reaching out to their seller who, did you hear from the board? Right, that doesn't exist. So there is a benefit if you narrow down on a community like this to talk with an agent that is very familiar with these neighborhoods. It's not a requirement, but at the other side of it, most of the people that are watching this video are realtors. So I like it because if you do find yourself in this community, you might consider talking or partnering with someone who is that familiar. I've got a lot of agents that they hone in on one particular area, whether it be downtown, or it could be North Naples, could be Naples Park, Treviso Bay, obviously, Isles, Marco Island. I mean, Marco Island, you've probably never even been there. Mike,
I have.
Mike used to live on Marco. When was the last time you were down there?
I get down there more than you.
Oh, yeah, you've got the office
Oh,
down there.
Yeah,
But it's a different thing. So if you find yourself going into areas like that, in areas that you're not as familiar with, it might be a good idea to partner with someone and say, look, I want to make sure the buyer or the seller gets the best experience. And I don't want to be fumbling. I want it to be simple. Is there a way to work together? I actually work with a lot of agents that are big golfers, right? They promote their entire business around golf. And that is a subset that I'm completely unfamiliar with. But I know they are familiar with it. And it just it jump starts the whole conversation. All right, so going back to another topic that we talked about briefly. We're setting up a listing. And obviously we have to disclose certain things. So single family home, we're disclosing, are there any fees with the HOA? So that's a big one, the master plan community.
Yep.
The Treviso Bay master. You're always going to do what, an HOA disclosure on that?
Yes, you're gonna, from the very beginning, if we're working with, if you're talking on the seller side.
Seller side. So we're thinking about a listing.
Yeah.
Client might have just right? So you've got maybe a couple of days, maybe a week or two before it's going to go live. Are you working right then and there to get the disclosures right?
Right off the bat, yeah. And that's something that we have with Downing Frye. They give us these tools and education to do that, to do these.
I thought it was
systems. Well, if I'm not sure, then I can't get Mike. I call you, or vice versa. And both of you always answer, so that's what's awesome.
I'll pay you for that.
We have systems on top of systems, and I pride myself and want to be organized. And between myself and Suzanne, like our team, she does a lot of the back end. We have the files, we have it all already.
So you've got
we know, okay, let's get that seller
disclosure, HOA disclosure for the master. Do you do a disclosure for the golf membership side of it?
There's a fee chart, so you're going to get that too.
Is it mandatory to be social member or?
So what's interesting and very easy about Treviso is you cannot transfer a golf membership.
Okay.
So for instance, this home has a golf membership with it.
Okay.
It stays with the home.
So the seller can't sell it.
They can't sell it. No. Okay. They sell the home, they sell their golf, the new buyer has the golf. So nothing can be transferred amongst anyone here. There's certain places, like I said, 826 that have golf. So it makes it real easy. Okay. And there are no initial fees here either.
Okay.
So your fees for the year here for a TPC golf course is like $4,300. That's it.
So
what a great amendment.
That's it. And yeah,
really, if you're a golfer, it's a no-brainer. Yeah. Okay. So you're going to be looking at a house that has that membership. Because it's mandatory for a house like this, you're going to disclose that, right? Yeah. So usually I see like a separate HOA disclosure that has what those dues are.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever had it where it changes in the middle of the contract? Or where you got it wrong?
That's a good question.
I don't want to hear this answer.
Well, there's one time that Mike didn't.
Oh, there you go.
Not in the midst. So luckily, like I said before, fortunately, we are very involved in the community. Suzanne and I, and she is like, she's
out there, right?
She's watching.
Okay.
She's Miss Treviso Bay. I mean, like, that's what, she is so involved and such a pillar in this community. We want to be, we are, because we love it. She's a fountain of information for everyone. So if I don't know something, she does. And if we're both not sure, I'm calling one of my friends who are board members to get that answer. And I'll get it for sure. So
I had a deal, and it was not in Treviso Bay, it was a different community. The listing agent grabbed the fees they have right on their website. Tell me if Treviso does this, but right on their website, they have a download that is specifically for buyers and realtors and sellers. And it says, here are the fees, here's the meal minimums and all that stuff. It was wrong. Ooh. It was wrong from the board. It was wrong, or the property manager. They updated it for 2024. And then they voted a change and the old one stayed out there for weeks or months. It was a problem. And then at closing, we order an estoppel letter that shows what the real fees are. And we put it on the settlement statement, and the buyer, they lost it. They were really upset. It was like a $4,000 or $5,000 difference right at closing. And then there was going to be ongoing fees. Yeah. Now, there's really not much in the contract that talks about what happens then. In my opinion, I think it gives the buyer the ability to try and terminate the contract. Every situation is different. I'm not a litigator, I'm not a judge, I can only say so much. But I think the buyer's only leverage is to say, look, I'm getting out of the deal. But short of that, there's no way to get it right. So you gotta kind of have to get it right to begin with. If you put yourself in that position where it could be wrong, and you didn't do the due diligence, you didn't verify, you didn't call the sales director and ask, hey, anything changed on this? Hey, can you confirm that the golf membership does stay with this house? What are the fees? Is that going to change? When is the next board meeting? All those things are very relevant, because if you don't have to live in the community, you don't have to be as dialed in as you are, but it's helpful to know. It's helpful. That deal went sideways. I think it did close last week, actually. But it was not fun. I think everyone admitted that.
However, sometimes
let's hear it.
They want to close and they go, aha, negotiating power here.
Yeah, leverage is the key word. So in that scenario, you kind of have to take a step back, and you have to listen to your client. So the important thing in that scenario is, let's say the buyer is upset, but they still want to close. You have to keep that second part in mind. Say, look, we can't terminate if you still want to close, because then it risks your deal. Maybe the seller finds someone else. Maybe the seller gets frustrated with you. I can't guarantee what will happen if you actually terminate. But how good of a poker player are you? Playing the cards is only half the battle. You got to actually play the person on the other side. I've seen a lot of people have success, and they had no contractual right whatsoever for what they got. None. It's just that they were willing to put all the chips in the center of the table. That's my analogy for the day.
Sometimes the husband's a great poker player, but the wife isn't.
So I love that. What a great point. Can you remember any scenarios like that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it happens. So I actually have started talking to clients, and so I'll get the husband on the phone and be like, and I already know a little bit about their background, because I do like to know the clients when I can. And I'll say, okay, is your wife okay with that? And I don't mean it derogatory or anything like that, but the reality is, you say one thing, are you okay with me going forward with that? Because we'll light the world on fire. I just don't want you sleeping on the couch when you do eventually buy the house. That is a really important determining factor. All right, so let's go back to the initial point. You've got an HOA disclosure for Treviso. I would recommend we do a separate HOA disclosure for the golf membership, because it is mandatory. I think that's the important part. If it's voluntary, I'm not recommending that you do an HOA disclosure. You can tell them, you can put it in an email, you can tell them, hey, I think these are the costs, but you should probably verify, here's who you call. But if it is voluntary, I would not put it in the contract. I think that is a problem. And in fact, the closing from last week that kind of went sideways, it was not the assessments that were disclosed incorrectly, it was the capital contribution that was disclosed incorrectly. So, and there's nowhere in the contract, nowhere in the statute that requires the capital contribution to be disclosed. So if let's say now we're going to buy a condo in Treviso. What's one of the condos around here? What's one of them that you're?
So right here, there's Giovino.
Giovino. You have any listed in there right now?
Right now, Giovino, I do not.
Okay. Well, some seller out there's got to hit up Scott.
You got it.
All right. So let's say you get one in Giovino. You're gonna have your HOA disclosure. Do those have golf memberships?
Those include golf.
All right. So you're gonna have a golf membership disclosure in there. Because it is mandatory, and then you're gonna have a condo disclosure. Condo disclosure different than HOAs, and this is where it's very important what kind of property you're selling, because we're in a single family, but if you go down the street, now we have a condo disclosure. We don't disclose condo fees. This is neighbor contract. FARBAR does have a place where you can disclose condo fees, but in a neighbor form, you're not required to do that. How do you disclose condos? What do you do for that? So, you said you have a master file, right?
So we have a master file. So we have a file for the master HOA as well. On top of, there's condo wise, there's Giovino, there's Aqua, and Trevi.
Okay.
Trevi is non-golf, so social.
Okay.
The other two are golf. So once everything's going out, whether it's for a listing or not, depending on what people know and what they don't.
Oh, you're a troublemaker. Yeah,
I apologize. I thought I did. They will get all the paperwork sent to them. And again, one thing I want to reiterate and implore is, like you were saying, check with the management company.
Yeah.
And as well as check the website of the community, but check with the management company. They're on site here for the master.
Yeah.
We're very close with them, and no matter where you get the contact you need and make sure you're getting the proper numbers, proper fees.
Absolutely. So with a condo, you're going to disclose bylaws, covenants, FAQs, what financials, year-end financials, the most recent financials.
And most important, where are they at with the reserves?
Yeah. So
nowadays, that's become more.
It's become, how well funded is the property? How old is it? Is it subject to the new Sears or engineering report studies? All that's, the condo world is becoming a little bit more complicated than it already was. So you're going to do all that before you list it, right?
Yeah. And another thing about Treviso too is it's a CDD community.
Great. Thank you. So there's a perfect transition. Community Development District. In a nutshell, what that means is that the developer got money. The county gave them a loan to build the infrastructure, the roads, the ponds, utilities, things like that.
Street lights.
And so the county says, we'll give you this bond, we'll give you this loan, you just have to pay it back. And the developer says, I'm not paying it back. The homeowner is going to pay it back. So in the tax bill, there are two parts to the CDD. You've got the loan payback, and then you've got the ongoing annual assessment for the CDD. It's almost like it's just another section to your tax bill.
Yeah.
It's in the non-ad valorem tax portion. And so there's a disclosure for that, right? So you've got to know what's the payback on the loan, like what part is that, and what part is the maintenance, ongoing maintenance. Tell me, in Treviso, are there loans left on these CDDs, or is it really just the ongoing maintenance?
No, there's still loans left.
There are.
It doesn't have too much left years wise on it.
And usually you can get that on public record.
Yeah.
It's online.
Yeah.
You download that. You can go to their websites, call the property manager.
Call the property management company, and you can check with the tax appraiser site, however to find it, because you can look at the history on that as well.
Yeah.
What was last year's? What did they pay?
So some of the thing with CDDs is you have to look at the tax bill to see if this is part of that particular property. Generally, what I think about is the older parts of town, even Marco Island, downtown Naples, the unincorporated parts of Collier County for sure, they're not going to have a CDD. This is almost something that was in the last 30 years. So I'm going to mess all this up, but there's probably one at Fiddler's Creek, there's probably one at Pelican Bay, there's probably one at Pelican Marsh. In Laley, there's one. This was something that the big master communities did if it wasn't done through the CDD, it would have been done through the HOA, I assume. It's just a way of county saying, hey, look, we can't bear all this burden for maintaining your private communities, so you're gonna have to pay on your tax bill. So the homeowner, the important part is to pull the tax bill, look at all the sections. As a listing agent, your important part is to disclose it correctly, or just educate the seller. Now, how do you do that? So you obviously know these fees, but it's really the seller's obligation to disclose.
Yeah.
How do you walk that tightrope?
So if it depends on the seller too.
That's a good point. Yeah.
We also just have a system where this is everything we need done. Here's your package. Here's your listing package.
We give you some homework.
Yeah, we need this. This is what we need done. You're gonna fill this out to the best of your knowledge. If you don't know the fees or
Then
then we're gonna work together. We'll get it put together for you. But we want all this. So I want always all those supplements up. When that listing's on live, have it all up there.
Yeah.
People need it. Otherwise, you're gonna get a lot of.
And I think you make a good point. It is the seller matters.
Yeah.
Are they elderly? Are they new to the community? Did they never actually move in? Mike, you've probably had issues like this where the disclosure is wrong. You know, the HOA fees are wrong, the condo, you know, maybe the documents are missing. What's your advice to an agent that calls you panicked because the deal fell apart, or it's threatening to fall apart because fees are wrong?
Well, taking a step back, the CDD is one of the top mistakes I see agents make.
Okay.
Because you've got 9,000 realtors in town, and a lot of them come from areas that don't have a CDD. So no, they think homeowners association, is there a homeowners association? But sometimes they're not thinking, is there a CDD? And so when all of a sudden that gets flushed out and you got a mistake, what do you think your party's gonna wanna do? They're gonna
You give me your wallet.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, you forgot to tell me about that.
So that's
right.
That's very important. But you know, honestly, when a mistake is made, own it. I mean, you got to be honest.
Yeah,
really.
You got to react in the moment. And I actually talk about this a lot, that I like to role play in advance of confrontation. So I would challenge all of you guys to think about what would I do in the event that happens? The CDD was missed, or it was disclosed incorrectly. It was because of something I did or didn't do. I had an agent once that she, out of the goodness of her heart, called the property manager to see if the property could be rented. You know, is renting allowed? And the property manager was like, yeah, sure, no problem, and hung up. She called the wrong property manager.
Oh,
it was the wrong association entirely. The one she called, that was right, but the one she actually sold was different. So that, you know, the problem there was when the client called her out on it, she reacted so poorly that all the trust went out of the building. It was really bad. But if you think about, all right, how would I react, or how am I going to respond in the moment if someone accuses me of making a mistake? If someone says, hey, I didn't know, and I'm really pissed and I want to terminate.
Here's what I think is important. The initial reaction is that this was not an honest mistake. They intentionally did this. And I think if you find out how it happened, and if it is an honest mistake, talk it through, because there are times where the party accepts it as an honest mistake and is willing to move on. If they're livid about it and that kind of thing, now you're getting into a negotiating mode.
Yeah, but I had this issue yesterday. I had a seller come into the office to sign, and they came in angry. And I didn't pick up on it, and that was my mistake. They came in angry. They saw one thing that they didn't agree with on an escrow agreement, and I had drafted it. So maybe I was a little defensive, and I said, you know, in my opinion, the language for the escrow agreement that was in the contract wasn't written correctly. I said it was confusing. I didn't understand it. I said I knew just by looking at it that I needed to rewrite it. She got so mad at me for saying that. I walked right into the bee's nest. And that was my mistake. I should have been a better listener first and said, hey, tell me what's going on. instead of saying why I felt strongly it needed to be this way. Because the first response she gave me was, well, I'm an attorney. I'm like, oh, so now I criticize someone that should know how to write this stuff. I regained composure and actually apologized. I said, I'm so sorry. I really didn't mean to offend you. Here's where I was thinking. I'm trying to make it right in the sense that I'm not worried about what it says for today. I'm worried about what it says for 6 months from now. And I said, that's what I'm worried about. I want to keep you out of litigation. I'm not concerned about who wrote it. That to me, I don't need credit. I don't want that extra phone call 6 months from now. And we're actually writing an article about escrow agreements. Honestly, we don't like them. I think it should be like the tool of last resort. I think it's the last thing you need to use in resolving disputes. Really, I want credits, I want price reductions, or I want just clear communication. So it's just a good example of know how you want to respond if you were to make a mistake. If you made a fee disclosure mistake, what I like doing is saying, hey, that's why we gave it to you first. And I'm so glad you said that you and Suzanne do that, because the real process should be, here's your homework, fill out your seller disclosure, HOA disclosure, golf membership disclosure. Let's call the property manager and get all the most recent financials, condo docs, bylaws, governing, and then we'll go through it together. I love, even though you know a lot of that stuff, you probably know all of it, you need to give them that homework because it is their obligation. And because then, let's say fast forward 6 months and you do have a problem, you say, you know, Becky, that's why we asked you to fill it out correctly. You know, we supplemented it where we thought we knew the answer, but as you know, day one, we asked you to fill this out. It's easier to have that conversation when no one's made a mistake. But if you didn't have that conversation, you just did it for them, they don't even know that you were doing something extra. Mike, we did an article over the weekend. We talked about the doctrine of undertaking. You ever heard of that?
Nope.
Doctrine of undertaking is basically saying, if you do something, if you volunteer to do something, you're going to be held to a higher standard. If you don't volunteer to do it, then it's just the normal standard of duty, like, you know, good faith and not stealing from someone. But if you actually go the extra step and do the disclosure for them, and then you just hand it to them, you say, sign it, you've now elevated your liability. So again, we didn't talk about that. I love that you guys put it in their lap first, and then you just double check it.
See, I got confused on that one. I thought if I volunteered to join a foursome, I'm held to a higher standard. Does that mean I have to golf better?
You gotta golf.
I'm glad you cleared that up.
Yeah, you got it a lot. I'm glad you cleared up. It's golf. Yeah, that's right. That's right, obviously. All right, so master communities, that's it in a nutshell. There is a value in knowing your community. That's the icing on the cake, I think, for a good realtor, is knowing what they're selling and not learning on the spot. You know, there's always a place to learn on the spot. There's always that, you know, that fake it till you make it, always. But there's also a value in partnering with someone or working with someone that knows it cold. You know, it just gets you up to speed.
There's also one other component. You know, this community has a lot. It offers
1,500 homes,
security, gated community, that kind of thing. It has almost everything, it feels like. But what's just outside of the community? Location, location, location. You've got Fifth Avenue right down the street. You've got great proximity to Tamiami Trail and I-75, Marco Island, the hospitals. Nowadays, with more and more retirees moving down here, they want to know, where is the health care? So the location of this community is spectacular.
Central between all that.
You got any listings you want to promote right now?
I'd love to, but they're all under contract.
No problem.
But there's more coming. So we had another one that was coming up, but we already put it under contract before we even made the announcement. So that's
awesome.
That's part of Treviso. One other thing I want to say quick, as an example of what you were talking about too, is this past year we had a special assessment for community improvements.
For the HOA?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was voted on, passed, and it was, the numbers were about, say, about 2,000 for the assessment.
Okay, special assessment, $2,000.
All of these this is something we need to know the answer to, because a lot of the owners, and it caused a little ruffle here. A lot of the homeowners who were leaving said, well, I'm not gonna pay that. The new owner can pay it. I'm leaving. Well, we dug in and found out, no, it's on the current homeowner. So they need to pay that. So a lot of times that came up, and I immediately shared with whoever was listing or the seller, hey, that's your responsibility. You need to know it.
Yeah.
It's, and that's, just something we had to make sure we knew.
It's the sad part of our industry. The sellers aren't really paying attention. They might be part-timers. They're up north most of the year, and they're not reading about these special policies. They're certainly not going to board meetings. And so when this stuff comes through, they're just adamant. I didn't know about it. That's someone else's problem. And imagine if you didn't know about it either, and then it comes to the closing table, and there's like, oh no, there's 2,000. They're going to blame you. And they'll be like, why didn't you know about this? Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't we put it in the contract? And that happens all the time, all the time. The standard NABOR contract says if it was passed before you went under contract, then it's the seller's obligation. If it was passed after you went under contract, it's the buyer's obligation. And passed is a defined term. It means that it was approved and the amount is known. It might even be payable, that they know who owes it and how much it is. That's what passed means. Anything short of that, it's going to be on the buyer. So it's interesting, but that's a little landmine. If you were to come up at a closing this week, next month, and there's a special assessment that no one knew about it, be prepared to how you want to respond. Say, look, that's what this standard says. The line, here's the line. Let's read it. It's it's right there in black and white. All right, guys. Well, I hope you enjoyed this. You know what I'm going to do, Scott? We show them the house.
Oh yeah.
Right on the golf course.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. It's beautiful. So, Scott, how much you want for this? 100 million? 200 million?
Oh, jeez. We just started about 3.5.
3.5 million. No. Whatever we want to do, guys. Thanks for joining. I hope you had a lot of fun with this one. Bye.